It was the olden times, way back in the past. The old Greeks, the philosophers Socrates, Plato, Aristotle, and the bunch, they were all contemplating this one problem. They invented math and logic to answer this one heavenly question. But we're not a science channel, so throw all that stuff away, because we're gonna go with our gut feeling here, and we're gonna be answering some deep philosophical questions with a karate kid. So the question we're struggling with today, that we're wrestling today, is what makes a good sim racing game. And to structure this video a little bit, I've decided to make up arbitrary categories to talk about. Our first beautiful category is something that is highly debated on the online forums and message boards, as you kids like to call them, is the immersion factor. On the one hand, you got graphical and auditory immersion. It looks beautiful, sounds beautiful. Then on my right side here, maybe for your, that's the left. Wow! We've got competition immersion, as I have arbitrarily called it. Which means that you want to race because you're in a championship and you want to compete. Okay, so it's always great to have very beautiful graphics, very good sound design, and a very cool VR experience. But the obvious downside with that is performance issues. Look at a game like ACC, looks absolutely like the bee's knees, but it can't perform like ass. Then on my other side here, we've got something like iRacing, which does competition like no other sim racing game does it. But it doesn't always look the best. And iRacing is popular for a reason, ACC is popular for a reason, and tell me why. Tell me why, nothing but a mistake. Moving on! Our next category is driving feel. With driving feel, I mean, how does it feel to have a steering wheel in your hands? How does it feel to control the cars? And I don't really have a one versus another thing. In my opinion, there needs to be struck a balance between satisfactory driving feeling, and on the other hand, it's got to have a little bit of realism, because it's a sim racing game. You got to feel wonderful when you drive the cars, and it also has to be a little bit realistic. Otherwise, it's not a simulation. God darn. You know what I mean. If you don't like the feeling of the cars when you're driving them, you don't want to play the game. That's obviously. It's got to be nice to drive the cars, but they also got to feel like they're real cars, and they got to feel different. So there's got to be a balance between those things.
And then our last and final
talking point: game mechanics and accessibility. And with this I mean like the gameplay aspects of the game, because whether we like to admit it or not, racing sims are games. Let's talk about accessibility. You gotta be able to find your way into the car. You gotta be able to navigate the menus. You gotta be able to set everything up. And if that is hard to use or not even comprehensible, you've made a bad game. Maybe the simulation aspect is immaculate, but people gotta be able to use your platform to get into the sim. So I think it's very important that there's some ease of use, some accessibility. People should be able to use your game, gosh darn it. Now, the next thing in the game mechanics category is leaderboards and ranking systems and all that kind of jazz. ACC is a prime suspect in the case. They have this whole ranking system, and the only two that matter, track competence and safety rating. You also have an account rating, and they also do nothing with that. And I think they need to look at iRacing or maybe League of Legends, where you can get into a certain bracket and maybe have something next to your name. So you have something to aspire to, something to achieve, something to unlock, or a rank to increase. And that brings me to my next topic. I think a lot of sim racing games go too hard on the simulation aspect instead of the game aspect. I think they would greatly benefit from having some arbitrary, not needed at all achievements and unlockables, because it's a proven fact that people like to strive towards something, even if that means that they can get the slightly darker red color for their Ferrari by getting a million wins in the game. I don't know. I think sim racing games need to lean a little bit more into them being games and a little less in being corporate software. I want to play a game. I don't want to use Microsoft Excel. But all this mumbo jumbo has, of course, got a oh gosh darn. All this mumbo jumbo has a point, of course. So let's tally up the scores and get a final verdict going. And I think these 3 points are very important for a sim racing game's success. And the first is, it's gotta have decent immersion. You gotta be immersed graphically, and it's gotta sound alright. Then the next point is, it's gotta perform well. You're not gonna drive in a sim that's tanking with the FPS all the time, that's glitching all over the place, so it's gotta perform well. The netcode has gotta be good, the frame rate has gotta be good, and the AI, please, make the AI also good. And then the last one is, you gotta have incentives to stick around, like leaderboards, like competition. Something Dirt Rally does really well is the global leaderboards on each rally stage with each group of cars. You always see if where you land on the leaderboard. You see if you've broken your own record, and that really incentivizes you to stick around, really try to press yourself hard and get a good time in. And I think a lot of other games will also benefit from that if they have something like a ranking system or leaderboards or whatever. And one of the ways you can implement this is by third-party league racing as well. If you've got a bunch of buddies together and you're in a racing league together, that's also a great incentive to stick around. But it would be great if the games themselves would have some league racing integration or something. But yeah, that's my rant. I think those 3 things are needed to make a perfectly good sim racing game. Anyway, let me know what you think. You're probably gonna hate me for everything I've said, and that's fine. And yeah, sleep well tonight, my beautiful baby boys and girls. Hope to see you next time. I love you guys. And now for the Patreon and channel member shoutouts. Thank you guys so much for all the support. I really, really, really appreciate it. So thank you very much. We got Iker Maruri, he's got it going on. Greg Massaro's the man who's never wrong. Patrick Sagers, he lets you bite the dust. Warlike Distress is someone you can trust. Aquarius, forever in my heart. JR Sim Racing probably loves Die Hard. And that's how we do it. I see you guys later. And thanks again for the support.